Imagine receiving $500 or more every month, no strings attached. It might sound too good to be true, but it's becoming a reality for many Americans. Dozens of cities and states are experimenting with guaranteed income programs, and the results are pretty remarkable. These programs provide direct cash payments, no complicated rules, no restrictions on how the money can be spent, just money in your pocket. So let's start with some exciting news out of Salem, Massachusetts. They're launching a new guaranteed income program called Uplift Salem, and the applications open in just a few days. Starting on October 28th, Salem residents can apply to receive $500 every month for an entire year. And the best part is, there's no restrictions on how you can spend that money. If you need to catch up on rent, buy groceries, pay for childcare, it's entirely up to you. So let's take a look at the eligibility requirements. To be eligible for this one, you'll need to live in Salem, Massachusetts, and have a family income that is at or below the federal poverty level. And there's something really important here too. If you're homeless and you spend most of your time in Salem, you may still be eligible even if you don't have a Salem address, which is really cool. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity for those who are struggling to make ends meet. The application window is open for 2 weeks or until they receive 350 applications. And programs like this in other areas have received tons of applications. So I would not be surprised if they closed earlier than they expect. Once they do close, they're going to randomly select 100 people, and then those payments will start going out on December 1st. You'll be able to submit your applications at salemma.gov/uplift when the applications open. So if you live there, I really encourage you to go bookmark that page, set an alarm, get ready to fill out that application. Now let's head over to St. Louis, Missouri, where they've been piloting a guaranteed basic income program for low-income families with children who are enrolled in public or charter school. Now, hundreds of families there have been receiving $500 a month to help with essential expenses like food, utilities, and childcare. The program was initially funded by a combination of federal COVID relief money and a generous donation from tech entrepreneur Jack Dorsey. But it recently hit a bit of a snag. A lawsuit was filed claiming that the program violates the Missouri Constitution. We've heard that a lot in different areas as organizations try to shut these programs down. The judge temporarily suspended this program, but the city was determined to keep it going, so they managed to secure private funding to continue those payments while the lawsuit works its way through the courts. Since the money is coming from a private donor now, they're at least able to continue those payments for the time being. Unfortunately, several guaranteed income programs across the country are facing similar challenges. Lawsuits and budget cuts are becoming common, and that can be frustrating for families who apply and get their hopes up and then have their hopes dashed at the last minute. It would be really interesting to see if a workaround like the one we just discussed would work for the Uplift Harris program in Texas, which is still paused while the lawsuit that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed. That's the second time Harris County has tried to introduce this program, and the second time that Paxton has stopped it with a lawsuit. It'd be interesting to see if they could find a private donor to fix that. Now, other programs are facing different challenges, of course. In Denver, Colorado, a promising program that was providing direct cash payments to low-income and homeless residents is being put on hold as well. The Denver Basic Income Project, or DBIP, provided monthly payments of up to $1,000 to help people meet their basic needs and escape homelessness. But the mayor, Mike Johnston, has decided not to include funding for that program in the upcoming city budget, so it looks like it's probably going to pause. This is a real setback, especially considering the positive results that this program has been showing. Early data indicated that this program was helping people find stable housing, improve their health, and gain greater financial security. Now they're looking for private funding to help continue the project. Private funding is becoming an increasingly common way of getting these programs moving. Oregon is taking a different approach, though, and many residents are hoping that Oregon will soon have its own statewide guaranteed income program. That's because there's a ballot measure coming up in November called the Oregon Rebate. And here's how this one would work. The state would increase the minimum tax on large corporations who have sales over $25 million. The revenue generated from that tax would then be distributed to every Oregon resident in the form of a yearly rebate. Now, the only catch is that you'd have to live in the state for at least 200 days out of the year to get that rebate. Babies who were born toward the end of the year would also be included, even if they were born on New Year's Eve. Now, initially, the rebate was estimated to be around $750 a person, but new projections suggest it could be even higher, potentially reaching $1,600 a person by 2027. Most residents would receive this rebate as a tax credit that would reduce their tax bill. But for those with lower incomes, there would also be an option to receive it as a direct cash payment. Now, obviously, this is a huge deal. If the Oregon rebate passes, it could set a precedent for other states to follow. It could even help neighboring Washington Sorry, I'm from Washington, so I find this one a little amusing. It could help Washington potentially untangle their statewide proposal, which has been stuck repeatedly for like 3 years now. It was introduced again this year, but it's been stuck in committee and hasn't made really any progress since it was introduced in January. Now, Washington's plan is called the Evergreen Basic Income Pilot Program. If approved, this program would provide no-strings-attached cash payments to 7,500 low-income residents for 2 years. And so the way they're doing it's a little different. They want to give everyone a monthly cash amount that's equal to the fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in their area. So fair market rent obviously is going to vary wildly, whether you're in Seattle or Olympia or, Spokane. There's a wide range of rent costs, which means that people could receive hundreds or potentially even thousands of dollars a month, depending on where they live. The program does focus on people who are facing major life challenges that contribute to economic stability, such as homelessness, pregnancy, transitioning out of foster care, big stuff like that. Eligible participants would include low-income adults and emancipated minors who are living in the state of Washington. But like I said, this is the 3rd time that they have tried to move a basic income program like this through the state legislature, and this one still has not made it out of committee. So it doesn't look like it's going to become a reality anytime soon, but maybe if Oregon gets their stuff together, who knows? So if you live in Washington, definitely reach out to your state legislators to express your support for their plan. But of course, things aren't as complicated when it comes to guaranteed income out in California. There are lots of guaranteed income programs popping up all the time out there. In Sacramento, the Family First Economic Support Pilot just closed its application window this week. The program will provide $725 a month for an entire year to 200 low-income families. It's designed to focus specifically on Black and Indigenous families with children who are ages 5 or under living in their homes. Sorry, there's a lot of information in here. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Do I go too fast in these, or is this a good pace? Because sometimes I feel like I'm just turning like a fire hose on you guys, and I worry that it's way too much information too fast. So let me know what you think. But with all of that in mind, you might be wondering why so many areas are turning to guaranteed income. This is a question I get a lot because people, wonder why we're just giving cash to people, I guess. It makes sense to me, but anyway, research from the Open Research Lab, which was founded by Sam Altman, has shown that guaranteed income can lead to a lot of great outcomes. They saw a 10% increase in job searching, a 14% increase in pursuing education, a 20% reduction in problematic drinking, a 10% increase in people getting needed dental care, an 11% chance to move to a newer or better neighborhood, and even a 26% increase in people who were starting their own businesses. But it's not just about numbers either. Researchers from Columbia University found that these direct cash payments were crucial in helping people meet their basic needs. The money is routinely used for things like rent, utilities, and food, basic essentials that people need but can't afford. The American Guaranteed Income Studies have also shown that these programs can improve safety and reduce instances of domestic violence, strengthen communities and reduce fear of neighborhood violence, increase financial well-being and the ability to handle emergencies, enhance food security, and even promote healthier behaviors. And they also provide extracurricular and educational opportunities for children. The outcomes are really incredible. And that's because guaranteed income programs tend to empower people to take control of their lives. There's no strings here. And it turns out when you give that power to people, they're making very responsible choices. And if you think about it, it makes sense. It's easier to engage in meaningful work and become a contributing member of society when you can pay for childcare, have a reliable vehicle that works, and not be constantly stressed out and on the brink about how you're going to keep a roof over your head or food on the table. Sorry, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know you guys get it. It just drives me nuts because I have people call me out about this all the time. So, moving on. I should probably take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Injury Claims. They're helping people fight back after being harmed by dangerous or defective products. You guys probably know I've talked about them before. Now, if you or someone you know has been injured by a defective hernia mesh implant, you may be entitled to compensation. Medical complications from these implants can be life-altering, but if you're facing that, you may be eligible for help. So go to lirlinks.com and click the button that says Claim Review to get help now. Now I'm going to stop my rant and move on so that we can get through the rest of this video. I'm sorry, guys. I really try not to go off script because I tend to ramble. All right. So obviously, guaranteed income programs are showing us how effective direct cash payments can be. But it might make you wonder about the programs we already have in place because we're supposed to have programs that do that, right? Take TANF, for example. It's supposed to help families in need, but the reality is that very little of that money actually reaches the people who need it most. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, or CBPP, recently published a report that revealed some shocking statistics. Did you know that less than 25% of all TANF funds are actually used for direct cash assistance for families? Only about 23 cents out of every TANF dollar goes to the people who are supposed to be being helped. And in 14 states, it's less than 10 cents of every dollar that goes to those families. So where's the rest of the money going? Well, they broke it down, and what it comes out to is like this, okay? So of all of that TANF money, you've got about 23% going to people, 15% goes to childcare programs, 10% or so goes to pre-K and Head Start, about 9% goes to child welfare, about 8% goes to tax credits, another 8% or so goes to work and education training activities, and about 2.6% goes to what they call work supports and supportive services. Another 10.4% goes to program management, things like administrative costs and overhead. And another 12.7% is categorized as other, which I guess includes things like after-school programs, pregnancy prevention, juvenile justice programs, and things like that. Now, I'm not saying those other programs aren't valuable. They probably are. But when families are struggling to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads, shouldn't direct cash assistance be the priority here? It's a stark contrast to the guaranteed income programs that we've been discussing, where the focus is on getting the cash directly into the hands of the people who need it, which empowers them to make their own choices about how to best use that money for their support. Now, of course, it gets even worse. Not only are states not spending that money on direct cash assistance, many of them are just sitting on huge piles of unspent funds. The CBPP found that some states have reserves that exceed the amount they receive from the federal government every year. And it turns out there's no limit on how much states can carry over, and there's no deadline for spending that money. So while families are struggling with their basic needs, the money that could help them is just sitting there, unused. Hawaii and Tennessee, for example, have about 4 times their annual TANF funds in savings. Oklahoma and Nebraska have about twice their annual allotment. And many other states have well over a year's worth of funds just sitting in reserve. Now, the issue is finally starting to get some much-needed attention, though. The House Ways and Means Committee held a hearing on welfare reform last month, and it all kind of centered around the massive fraud in Mississippi's TANF program. And if you recall from a previous video where I covered this, around $77 million in TANF funds were misspent in Mississippi. Around $5 million was spent on a volleyball arena at the University of Southern Mississippi. And other funds were spent on luxury travel, drug rehab for a pro wrestler, and fitness classes for public officials. It was pretty bad. Auditors actually called it the largest public fraud scheme in the history of Mississippi. And it took money directly away from the families who needed it most. So hopefully, Hopefully, the meetings on this will lead to some real reforms that will direct that money back to the people who actually need it. That's personally why I think guaranteed income programs are great. They cut out the red tape and they put the money in the hands of real people who know what they need, not just government bureaucrats. We're seeing the power of direct cash assistance to transform lives, reduce poverty, and create stronger communities. And while there are certainly obstacles to overcome and a lot of opposition in some areas, the growing evidence and increasing public support give me hope that we are moving toward a future where everyone has the resources that they need to thrive. So what can you do? I always recommend signing up for the Up Together newsletter. This organization plays an integral part of many guaranteed income programs. So they're usually the best source for reliable news about guaranteed income programs in your area. And then go spread the word. Talk to your friends, family, and neighbors about guaranteed income. Share this video and other information that you find. And take action. Contact your elected officials, especially your state legislators and your local governments, and let them know that you support guaranteed income initiatives. Most of these are being run at the city or county level, so talk to the people that are local to you. Get involved with your local organizations that are working to make these programs a reality. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being a part of this important conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that